guys, it's Jessica Shire and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm doing another Kat Scrappiness video and I chose the multicolor paw print sprinkles, which I thought would pair very well with the Toil and Trouble layered stamp set, also by Kat Scrappiness. And this stamp set has this really cool layered cat, so it's the 3 stamp layering system. And I haven't used a whole lot of layered stamps before, and so I was a little hesitant to try this out on camera, but it was really easy and I love that layered look that you get. There's just a lot of detail with this. So I'm using a couple different light gray inks for this. I think those work the best for a black cat. I have a tortoiseshell cat, so she's like a multicolored, and I did try that out with a couple different ink colors, more into the creams and browns. So you definitely don't have to go with the black cat theme, but I'm making a Halloween card. So I stamped the first layer with the lightest gray ink, and then the second layer with a little bit darker gray ink. I do have to kind of put my head right over the stamps, that way I can see where it's lined up. This is really easy to do with a stamp platform or any stamp positioning tool that you have. And what I did was try to line up the eyes and the left side of the cat. That did give me a really good impression. For my final layer, I'm going with my darkest colored ink. And this one I'm going to be using the VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink, because this ink is really good for stamping sentiments especially. I love it for that. And you can find this ink on the Kat Scrappiness website. So I thought it would work really well for this final layer to really enhance that detail of the cat. There's also some eyes that you stamp, and I use a yellow ink for this. I just used an acrylic block and just lightly stamped over it. I was literally blocking the entire area, so you would have only seen the back of my head anyways. So I left that out, unfortunately. So the other thing that is being released for Kat Scrappiness is these A2 acetate sheets, and these are perfectly sized to make some really cool shaker cards. I'm going to cut mine down to have it fit behind that frame with the 3 rectangles. That is a die from the Crafters Essentials 1 set. And then I also have the multicolored paw print sprinkles, which are super fun, and I just adore these colors. They are so bright. I'm going to carry that neon color over to Halloween. I'm all for it this year. I also have an older piece of pattern paper. This is by Echo Park. So I used some craft foam to cut out 2 purple frames with that die from the Crafters Essentials 1 die set. I'm going to use some Thermoweb Ultra Bond glue to adhere those together. I also die cut that same rectangle frame from a medium gray cardstock. That is what I'm going to adhere the Kat Scrappiness A2 acetate sheet behind. So I just set that off to dry for just a moment. I'm not going to let that glue fully dry, but I think it helps to adhere acetate, especially with liquid glue, if you let the glue just kind of dry down a little bit. That way it doesn't smush out from the edges. I'm going to measure that craft foam frame real quick to see how small I need to cut that acetate sheet down. Now I can lay that acetate sheet that I just cut down behind the gray cardstock. So you're not going to see this from the front, you'll just see the windows of it through those 3 rectangles. And I'm going to set those underneath a large acrylic block along with those other craft foam frames and let those sit and dry for a moment. So moving on to that Echo Park paper. This is that orange with the lighter orange polka dots, and it just screamed Halloween to me. So I'm going to darken it up a little bit with some black soot Distress Oxide ink. Doing a quick blend with some makeup blending brushes, and then attach that to a A2 sized Nina 110 pound cardstock base. So I didn't trim that acetate all the way down. I just had a little bit hanging off on the right hand side there. So I'm going to quickly trim that with my scissors. I'm going to add some more glue to that craft foam frame for my shaker and attach that to the front of the card. And now I have these rectangles that are kind of leftovers from when I did the gray cardstock with that same 3 panel rectangle die. So I'm going to add those to the inside, and that's also going to help to make sure that the sides and shape of that crafter's foam doesn't get a little wonky from me maneuvering it around. So make sure that those are nice and squared still. And then I can use my tweezers to just gently pull those out. And I'm going to add some more liquid glue to those and pop those back in. And those will be the backs for my shaker card. I honestly didn't have to do the middle one because I have another plan for that middle section, but they fit nicely right back inside. I'm also going to use the EK Success embossing tool to kind of coat those inside of those 3 rectangles. That way none of the sprinkles, the paw print sprinkles, stick to the sides as easily. And if I have any glue that kind of seeped out from the edges, it'll help detack that a little bit so things don't adhere where I don't want them to. It'll help the sprinkles move around when you go to shake this shaker card. I'm going to add a sentiment to that gray frame, that gray top frame with the acetate sheet behind it. And this is a sentiment from the Toil and Trouble stamp set. Plus, it works well with those paw print sprinkles. And I'm using the Wilted Violet because it really matches the purples in the paw prints and also that craft foam that I used. Now I can dump some of those paw prints into those rectangles, and I'm only going to be using the left and the right hand side to hold the sprinkles to make the shaker. I did double layer that craft foam so I had more room to put more sprinkles in, and it gives them more space to shake around. But I didn't want to overfill them, so I pour in a bunch and then I kind of pinch some out, that way it wasn't too full. Now I can add the liquid glue to the back of that gray frame with the acetate sheet behind it, being very careful not to overuse that glue because I don't want it to seep out to the edges, because you'll be able to see that through the acetate if it does. And I can set that gently onto that purple craft foam. So this is where I decided to kind of go a different route. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that middle rectangle for the layered cat that I had stamped. So I decided to take that rectangle frame with the 3 rectangles in it again, and then just run one side of that die through my die cutting machine to get one white piece of cardstock that is a perfect shape to fit in that middle area. That way I didn't have to measure it or trim it down or anything. This was just a lot easier. And I decided to do some Distress Oxide ink blending on this little rectangle. So I used some ATG adhesive to hold it down onto this mat that I'm blending on. And I have Broken China, Twisted Citron, and I'm going to use the Wilted Violet again too. So I worked this upside down actually because the green, the Twisted Citron, will be on the bottom. I did use a larger blending brush to start off with and then went to a smaller one to really get into those finer areas. That way I had a nice smooth blend. And I also used a sprayer to add some water droplets to give that ink blending some texture. I'm going to let that dry for a moment. So this is kind of where I messed up. The scrap piece of cardstock that I used for that layered cat image was a little too short to use the die that came with the stamp set, unfortunately. I had to resort to trimming it out, but this stamp set does come with 2 really cool dies, and you can do a lot of different techniques with dies like this, or if you don't like fussy cutting whatsoever, it's perfect to trim out your images and give you that white border. To attach my ink blended rectangle, I'm just going to use my ATG gun real quick and pop that onto the middle, and then do the same thing with that layered cat stamp image and pop him right onto that ink blended background. I really love the look of those multicolor paw print sprinkles. Those just make for a fun shaker card, and you don't even have to use them for Halloween like I did. They'd be perfect for any time because those colors are pretty universal. So that is it for this card. I hope you enjoyed the new release items, the multicolored paw print sprinkles and the A2 acetate sheets from Kat Scrappiness. And that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Subscribe if you have not already. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one.